Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the Fantasy Football Week 6 tight end start or sits. I'm going to be going over specifically my 2 starts and my 2 sits at the tight end position, while also going over my 1 through 18 rankings at the tight end position. Now, before we begin, I just want to go over this really quickly. You know, many of you don't have multiple tight ends on your rosters. Many of you don't really have options at the tight end position. For example, you'll own Kittle or Kyle Rudolph as you see on the screen, and those are your best options. There's nothing waiver wire wise that you can go pick up that is going to be better than these guys. So these rankings are just basically for those of you who have multiple tight ends, just to give you a better idea of how I think it's going to break down depending on the matchups for this week in week 6 of the regular season. Other than that, I'm ready to get into it. I want to thank all of you who've continued to support, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let's get right into it, shall we? All right. So, hey everybody, how's it going? My 2 starts of the week, we have George Kittle on the left, and we have Cameron Brate on the right. Now, George Kittle has been an absolute, he's been on a tear as of late. In the first 5 games of the season, whether he's with or without, Jimmy Garoppolo, George Kittle has been productive. He's been the only shining light next to Matt Brate when it comes to the fantasy perspective of the 49ers, right? In his, first 5 games of the season, he's had 4 games of 75 or more receiving yards, okay? So far this season, he's had, 79 or more receiving yards, right? Week 1, started with 5 receptions, 90 yards. Week 2, wasn't much of a week. We're not worrying about that. Week 3, 5 receptions, 79 yards. Week 4, 6 receptions, 125. In Week 5 this past week against the Arizona Cardinals, 5 receptions again for 83 yards. He's consistently putting up points. And honestly, you have to continue to start him. I know many of you, if you have Kittle, you have nothing else to start. That's why it's kind of redundant to have a starter sit for the tight end position. But I think Kittle this coming week into the matchup against the Green Bay Packers, someone's got to score, right? CJ Beathard is not a complete pushover. The last couple of weeks, he's been able to at least do something, right? He's able to move the ball thanks to Kyle Shanahan, the guru himself. So I think George Kittle, I have all the tight ends, is a for sure start of the week. Do not be fooled. You will see him within my rankings where I have him. He is a guy that he must start, okay? My next guy that I want to talk about as my tight end start of the week, Cameron Brate, a guy that many of you know that I've been mentioning for the last couple of weeks. Ever since I called it, what was it? In week 3, I said in week 3 going to 4, I said Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to play against the Bears and he's going to get knocked out and he's going to be out for the rest of the season and Jameis Winston is going to take the spot. Well, he didn't get knocked out. He just couldn't score the ball, turned over the ball a lot, and they eventually just gave the job to Jameis Winston. Cameron Brate, as of late, because of the O.J. Howard injury, has been the number 1 tight end. He has scored 10 fantasy points in the last 2 games that he's played. They've been on a bye week this past week, but I think because of the fact that Cameron Brate has always been one of Jameis Winston's favorite targets, especially in the red zone, the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as of right now, don't have a running game, they're going to have to be forced to pass the ball. And what a great matchup to go into as they play against the Atlanta Falcons this week, a team that has not stopped anything in the passing game. They're going to have their hands full with this Tampa Bay offense. Just a quick, rundown when it comes to stats. In the past 2 seasons, Cameron Brate has had 57 and 48 receptions, almost played the entire season in 2016 and 17, but he's usually a 600-yard, 7 touchdown a year kind of guy. And that's what I see for the rest of the season. Obviously, you have to subtract the 4 games that they have already played. So you just take out a quarter of that, right? And that is what I see for the rest of the season. Obviously, when O.J. Howard comes back, it's going to be a coin toss on who is going to be the relevant tight end within this offense. But I think because of Cameron Brate's rapport and history with Jameis Winston, he has the opportunity over a guy like O.J. Howard, who really wasn't relevant much of last season. and I don't think he will continue to be much relevance as long as Cameron Brate and Jameis Winston are the two hooking up together. So those are my two starts of the week. Now, my two sits of the week. It's really difficult to kind of give you guys sits of the week, but I just went to go find guys that you might consider starting. Now, many of you saw that Ryan Griffen this past week had 9 targets, 7 receptions, and had a decent fantasy game. I just don't see that as sustainable. Ryan Griffen, the tight ends of the Houston Texans have never been great. CJ Fedorowicz, a couple years back was a decent tight end, and then, his career's over already, right? They haven't, like the last time the Texans had a really good tight end, I think it was OJ Daniels, right? If I'm not mistaken. Let's pull that up. Let's see. Let me just, I think that's what it is. Owen Daniels, OJ. Oh my goodness. Owen Daniels. That is the last time that I remember a tight end in fantasy football being relevant. I remember the good old days with Matt Schwab, Andre Johnson, Arian Foster, Owen Daniels. That used to be a powerhouse of a fantasy team. Anyway, going into this week, Ryan Griffen, he had great opportunity, great production the week prior. I just don't trust him much. I would just rather suggest the guys that I'm going to be mentioning next within my rankings. Same thing with Antonio Gates. I know many of you, the name is familiar, and honestly, he's been great in the past, but this season, it's not the thing. Antonio Gates is far from a good tight end, to be honest. He's just a shell of himself, and he's not going to be fantasy productive, so I would 100% suggest avoiding these two. So let's just get into my rankings, shall we? Okay, it's pretty straightforward, plain and simple. There's nothing difficult here, people. Travis Kelce, until further notice, is the number 1 tight end in the NFL, whether it be, the regular NFL, as in all-pro team, or it be fantasy football. This guy is absolutely unbelievable. He continues to surprise us. This past week, just had a fantastic game against the Jacksonville Jaguars because, to be honest, he's just too good. He really is. And it's kind of hard to believe that a guy that continues to have somewhat difficult matchups is going to continue to find himself fantasy relevant. Other than the first game of the season, which was pretty much a fluke, Travis Kelce has been on fire. He continues to get, his targets, his receptions, his yards, and his touchdowns. He's number 1 going into this week into a very good matchup against the Patriots. Number 2, we have Zach Ertz. Can I say enough? These two guys are consistently getting their yards, their points. They're fantastic, right? These are two guys that are wide receivers in tight ends' bodies, right? They're just as valuable as wide receivers, right? In this league, whether you play full PPR, half-point PPR, or standard, these guys are so consistent. It's unbelievable. Let me just go ahead and pull up these stats real quick. I'm just quite curious, to be honest, on how everything is broken down. Come on. Let's get it going. Thank you. So thus far this season, Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz, they've been the number 1 and 2, right? Travis Kelce in half-point PPR has pulled up 72 fantasy points thus far. And Zach Ertz not far behind with 70 points. It's just a 2-point difference. The only difference between the two is that Zach Ertz just gets a boatload of more receptions, right? The reception count between Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz is 41-28, in which Zach Ertz is blowing him out. The only difference is the fact that Travis Kelce has 2 more touchdowns. Going forward, I think Travis Kelce is the better tight end, especially because of this week's matchup. But Zach Ertz not far behind a guy that you must start every single week. And if you can acquire him in a trade, dude, do it, because he's so consistent on a week-to-week basis. And going forward, he's just fantastic. Number 3 we have here, Rob Gronkowski. You're playing against the Chiefs. If they have Eric Berry ready to go, Gronkowski is going to find himself with some issues, right? Eric Berry can cover the tight end. He's a bigger safety, and he's pretty good in the coverage game. As of right now, I still see Gronk in this matchup being a top 3 tight end. Eric Ebron is going to push him if he doesn't start, picking up his game and getting those touchdowns that you drafted him to get, then eventually he's going to begin to drop as the weeks progress. But as of right now, I like the matchup. Obviously, Gronk is going to get his targets and receptions. It's whether he gets that touchdown upside. I like it this week because of the easier matchup. But the issue is there are so many mouths to feed within that Patriots offense. It's a guessing game to see who scores, right? Number 4, we have Erik Ebron. My goodness. Jack Doyle's not coming back. They don't really need Jack Doyle as of right now. Erik Ebron, he's questionable this week. What is that in? Okay, so according to the injury report, he's got a shin, quad, ankle, and knee injury, and he did not practice on Wednesday. Okay, so here's my advice as of right now. You want to play him, right? But that's if he plays. If he does not, Erik Swoope, the tight end that almost had 2 touchdowns on Thursday Night Football, but had 1, right? And was, 10 points, 12 points in fantasy, half-point PPR this past week. He will be taking the majority of the snaps that Erik Ebron will be getting. So if Erik Ebron does not play, Erik Swoope is the fill-in. I will update you as the week progresses. But as of right now, this man is just completely, his entire lower body, shin, quad, ankle, and knee, busted, right? Otherwise, if he plays and he's healthy, he's my number 4 tight end this week against a very good matchup against the Jets. Erik Swoope would be a top 12 kind of guy because of what we've seen in the past and because Andrew Luck is going to throw this shit out of the ball. Anyway, number 5, my first start of the week, George Kittle. As I mentioned before, the guy has just been on fire. He continues to find himself, scoring fantasy points on a weekly basis. He plays against the Green Bay Packers this week. That honestly isn't, an easy defense. All things considered, I think there is a possibility that they give them trouble. And George Kittle doesn't have a, completely monster game, but I think his floor is pretty safe. He's going to get those 7 to 8 targets. He's going to get those 5 receptions, and he's going to have his yards, right? And that's all you want from a tight end. You don't need, you didn't go out and you didn't draft Travis Kelce or Zach Ertz, right? So you're not going to be guaranteed the kind of production that they get, the 20-point weeks. If you end up getting it, fantastic, that's great. But you're getting the safe base floor from Kittle, and that's all you really need. You need that safe 8 to 10 points, which is fantastic at the tight end position as of right now. Number 6, we have Jimmy Graham, also in this matchup against the 49ers. I think Jimmy Graham is continuing to improve, right? He's continuing to be a part of this offense. Early on in the season, he wasn't getting the targets. He wasn't getting the receptions. It's beginning to increase as the weeks go on. He's becoming more and more a part of this offense. I think they need to, as much as they can, utilize him down to the goal line in order to, get him some touchdowns, get him some points. As a Devontae Adams owner in many leagues, I'm not a fan of that, but Jimmy Graham, going forward, he's going to be great. He's my number 6 this week against the 49ers on Monday Night Football. Number 7, we have Cameron Brate, my second start of the week, a guy I honestly believe with this offense, with O.J. Howard hurt, against a very, very, very great matchup. They play against a very bad team. I keep saying very, but how else am I supposed to explain it? They give up points in bunches, in Devin Funches. Anyway, so Cameron Brate, the way I see it this week, going to have a great matchup, going to be flanked with Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, and Chris Godwin. Who do you think the defense is going to focus on? They're obviously going to focus on trying to stop Mike Evans from scoring on them. And then after, they got to make sure that they don't get beat over the top from Deshaun Jackson. By the time that they get to Cameron Brate, the dude will have 8 receptions by then. Trust me, he's going to have himself a good week. Number 8, Jared Cook. Continues to be good, right? Here's the thing about Jared Cook. Every time that I think Jared Cook's going to have a great week, dude just disappears. I swear. But we know that, right? We know that of the Raiders' MO thus far this season. As soon as you think the Raiders are going to be great, they turn it around on you, and they're terrible. But as of right now, I think Jared Cook, he continues to get his 7, 8, 9 targets a week. I think he's going to find those targets. Whether he makes and acts upon the opportunity to have a good fantasy week just depends on, whether he ends up doing it. I don't know. Is he going to run over the guy? Is he going to stiff arm an extra guy? I don't know. We'll see. But he has the opportunity comparatively to the guys below him. I like his opportunity a little bit more this coming week. Number 9, we have Kyle Rudolph, a guy that as of late, I mean, he's been pretty good thus far this season. 23 receptions is not great. I don't think that's exactly what we were looking for this season. We thought maybe, okay, you haven't had Dalvin Cook in the last couple weeks. Maybe share the ball a little bit more with the tight end position, but Kirk Cousins not really getting there. They're not really feeding Kyle Rudolph the ball as much as I thought they would. It's more of the Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs show, which we knew was going to happen. It's not like that wasn't an opportunity or the main contributors of this offense. But I would have thought, this season Kyle Rudolph would have, at least by this point, been a little bit more productive. As of right now, unless he scores a touchdown, he's not a, top 10 tight end. As of right, that's why I have him at about 9. I don't feel if he doesn't score a touchdown, he can't get you that plus 10 points a week, right? So right now he's my number 9. Number 10, we have David Njoku. Continues to improve, right? Those early weeks with Tyrod Taylor was not great, okay? But he's turned it around. He continues to get targets. This last week, he had 11 targets, 6 receptions for 69 yards, right? That's a pretty good week. That's 9.9 fantasy points. That's what you want. You want those kind of points. You want that 10-point tight end. That's all you need. David Njoku can get you that playing against the Chargers this week. He had 11 targets. That is the season high thus far with Baker Mayfield. It's going to improve. It's going to be better. He's going to catch these balls. He's going to find the end zone eventually. He's my number 10. Number 11, Jordan Reed. Now, I don't understand it. The Redskins were down so many points in Monday night's game, yet Jordan Reed only had 2 targets and 1 reception. Like, Alex Smith's offense, it's really bad, right? The running backs are what the Redskins are trying to use. They're trying to play the entire offense through 2 running backs that as soon as they're shut down, they have nothing else. Paul Richardson, Jamison Crowder, Josh Doxson. They're not great receivers, right? They're not able to produce. They're not able to become, what you expect them to be and have breakout games. They're not going to do that. And when Jordan Reed's only getting a couple targets, man, you can't trust him after a while. And this coming week against a pretty good linebacker core of Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis coming back from suspension, and Shaq Thompson, I don't think Jordan Reed's gonna have too hot of a week. That's why he's at my number 11 spot. Number 12, we have Trey Burton. Trey Burton, last time we saw him, just like all these other Bears, they had pretty good weeks. But here's the problem with Trey Burton. He scored a 40-yard touchdown, right, in the first quarter. That's automatically 12 fantasy points, right? If you're playing a PPR, you get that. And then maybe you play in one of those leagues where you get a boost for having a 40-plus yard touchdown, right? So he already had a week on 1 reception. He hasn't been consistent enough at this point to be like, all right, he's a 100% start every week, but he's my top 12, right? I think he's a top 12 tight end. Going forward, he is the best option because honestly, there's not a lot of great tight ends in the league. So Trey Burton, you're my number 12 just by default. Number 13, we have Greg Olsen. Now, here's my thought process on Greg Olsen. I really think he's going to be good this season, but the issue is how healthy is he, right? He had that fracture to his foot. He was in the boot in week 1. And without having any surgery, he's tried to heal. He has been practicing this week. Hopefully, he ends up playing. I don't think Greg Olsen's like an automatic start because there's a potential that they put him on a specific limit on snaps. They might not use him a lot. They might use Ian Thomas a little bit. Just be able to share the reps in order to get Greg Olsen back into it. But until then, until I see that Greg Olsen is fully healthy, I don't want to put out a tight end and then boom, he gets injured. And I got a 0-point tight end on my roster, and I lose the week because of it. So I'm just being a little cautious. But otherwise, he's a better start than the majority of the other people that I'm going to mention. Austin Hooper, this past week, I don't know, maybe that's his career high in targets, receptions. 9 targets, 12 receptions. What? No, that doesn't work. 12 targets, 9 receptions, 77 yards. Austin Hooper had himself a game. Can he do it against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Sure, he can absolutely do it. But out of all the mouths that they're going to feed within the Atlanta offense, Do you think Austin Hooper is going to be the one? I think he's for sure a 6-point kind of, guy this week. He has the upside of getting 12 points, maybe catches that touchdown down on the goal line. But as of right now, not a guy that I can completely trust. He's my number 14. Number 15 is Vance McDonald. Disappeared this last week, which is really unfortunate. I feel like in that, really good matchup, he should have been able to produce more. This is the thing about Steelers tight ends that will begin to understand. They are not fantastic. They are not the vital parts of this offense. Offenses like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, they like to use their tight ends more than anybody in the league, right? But teams like the Steelers, they'll use their tight ends, but they have no bias on who they feed the ball to. They don't give a shit. They just want to move the ball, and they want to use their tight ends to block, right? Which Vance McDonald is really good at blocking. That's why he's my number 15. I don't see him having fantastic weeks. If he has that, stiff arm for 75 yards and a touchdown, great, you made your week up. Number 16, we have CJ Uzomah of the Cincinnati Bengals, picking up the slack of Tyler Eifert and Tyler Kroft. Eifert out for the season. Kroft had some opportunities this past week, but Uzomah is continuing to be the guy to step up, pick up the opportunity, and have the fantasy production. This coming week, he is a sleeper-ish kind of start. He's a guy that I mentioned in the waiver wire. He honestly, if you're struggling because of bye weeks or injuries at the tight end position, let's say, for example, you owned Evan Ingram, or you're sketchy on Greg Olsen, or let's say, for example, you had Ben Watson on the bye week, there's a potential that CJ Uzomah can be a guy for you to pick up this coming week and play. Number 17, Ricky Seals-Jones. Oh, man, Ricky Seals-Jones, what a garbage can, right? What happened, right? Again, we're back at it. Last week, I literally said during the tight end video, like midway through, I had him at 12 last week. And I sat there and I thought to myself, do I even want him at 12? I don't feel like he's good enough, right? He hasn't done anything this season to warrant a 12 ranking. And I was like, you know what, guys? This doesn't seem like a right thing. Just be careful on him this week, blah, blah, blah. And I just kept expressing that I just didn't trust him. I'm on the same boat this week. Ricky Seals-Jones, just be careful. He's got the name brand. People continue to say his name, but I don't know if I can trust him going forward. Same thing with, here's the thing about Geoff Swaim. The tight ends of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Last week, when I was here talking about tight ends, I literally said that the other two tight ends of the Dallas Cowboys, right, Blake Jarwin and Rico Gathers, had not had a catch on the season. So it took them 5 weeks to get a reception, but they both had receptions last week for good amounts of yards, respectively. And honestly, Geoff Swaim was pretty good too. Had 7 fantasy points and half-point PPR scoring. But the issue is they play against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So be careful on that. Other than that, please try to play one of the top 16 guys I have on your screen, because that is probably going to benefit you more than anything. Anyway, these have been my tight end rankings. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you haven't already, go down, subscribe. Have any questions, go for it. I will try to get to you before Sunday's games. And until next time, guys, which will be, let's see, we got Thursday Night Football tomorrow. We got the Eagles versus the Giants. And then we'll probably have the Hidden Gems on Friday. So I probably won't have a video tomorrow. I'm just going to sit down and relax, not have to worry about no videos. So we'll have a free day Thursday, Hidden Gems Friday, and then probably injury video on Saturday. This past week didn't put out an injury video, was busy. Honestly, just couldn't find the time. I thought about doing it on Sunday morning, but it just got away from me. So sorry about that, but probably have one this week. And yeah, anyway, thank you everybody for watching. And if you haven't already, subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you guys.